Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 6 o'clock, so I will call our regular scheduled council meeting for the month of March to order and turn it over to Councilwoman Johnson for the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
All right, can I have Laura Moore, please come up? For this month's employee spotlight, Laura stepped into the assistant recreation director role about 1.5 years ago. In that time, she has made significant strides to make Gehagen more efficient. Under her leadership, Gehagen's revenue has grown significantly. We have more activities and kids participating in programs, and summer camps at this location were established for the first time ever. In fact, Parks and Rec programming has seen a 34% increase in registration from last year to this year. Laura always represents the town with the highest level of professionalism. We are proud to have her representing the town in the Somerville Chamber's Leadership Dorchester program this year. Congratulations, Laura.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have children or if you've been around Somerville, you have seen this space. She does a fantastic job leading our future leaders, creating opportunities, but also doing it with a mindset for stewardship and excellence. And you reflect the best of Somerville, so I also have a coin for you. We appreciate you greatly. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
May I please have Daphne and family come up? Whereas bleeding disorders which share the inability to form a proper blood clot are characterized by extended bleeding after injury, surgery, or trauma, can lead to significant morbidity and can be fatal if not treated effectively. And whereas this awareness month will generate greater awareness and understanding of not only hemophilia, but all inheritable bleeding disorders, including von Willebrand disease, and rare bleeding disorders which affect millions of individuals around the world. Whereas this awareness month will bring light to great scientific advancements in the treatment of bleeding disorders for which there is no cure, and the greater pursuit of advanced therapies and cures to these disorders. Whereas the bleeding disorders community's relationship with policymakers have fostered numerous medical and policy advancements beneficial to all those affected by bleeding disorders and their loved ones. Now, therefore, Mayor Russ Touchberry and the Somerville Town Council do hereby proclaim the month of March 2026 as Bleeding Disorders Awareness Month.
Thank you for your leadership on this area. Thank you.
May I have Rebecca Mitchell come up, please? Whereas Women of Construction is a newly established organization dedicated to creating a strong network of women across the construction industry And whereas this organization was founded to provide a platform for women in construction to connect, learn, and lead, fostering mentorship, professional development, and opportunities for growth in an ever-expanding industry. And whereas the construction community continues to drive economic and community development through major infrastructure, industrial, and civic projects, and Women of Construction proudly promotes the inclusion and advancement of women in every facet of that progress. And whereas Women of Construction partners with local businesses, trade organizations, and educational institutions to raise awareness of skilled trade careers, support workforce development, and inspire future generations to explore the many pathways within construction. And whereas through volunteerism, community engagement, and the spirit of collaboration, Women of Construction seeks to make a lasting impact throughout the region. Now, therefore, Mayor Russ Touchberry and the Somerville Town Council do hereby recognize Women of Construction and its dedicated founding members for their commitment to empowering women, supporting workforce growth, and strengthening our community, and do hereby proclaim the week of March 1st to the 7th, 2026 as Women of Construction Week.
All right. Since I work in the construction industry, I feel like I always have to speak up. Every successful project, major project that I've been a part of, whether it's Cooper River Bridge, the Nexton Parkway interchange, every single project had women professionals that were helping our team excel and do well. So I am grateful for the females who come into the construction world against a lot of headwinds sometimes, but they always make sure we get the jobs done well, and I'm grateful for it. So thank you for what you do in your organization. We need more women there. Yeah.
May I have Rich O'Brien come up, please? Whereas the Office of the Surgeon General issued a call to action in January 2021 to implement a national strategy for mental wellness, identifying mental health as a critical public health crisis. And whereas CDC research indicates that first responders, including law enforcement, firefighters, EMS clinicians, and 911 dispatchers experience elevated risk of mental health challenges due to chronic occupational stress, trauma, and mental health stigma. And whereas the Stand Up and Play Foundation, a 501c3 organization, has launched the HERO program, helping emergency responders overcome to combat those trends through specialized golf therapy clinics. And whereas these clinics held monthly at the club at Westcott Plantation provide a vital support network for active, retired, and medically retired responders, disabled veterans, and their families to foster healing and friendship. Now, therefore, Russ Touchberry, Mayor of the Town of Somerville, along with Town Council, does hereby formally recognize the importance of mental wellness and mental health awareness for all first responders and citizens, commends the Stand Up and Play Foundation and HERO program.
Important program. Yeah. Very good. As you know, the foundation of municipal government is public safety, and our public safety professionals are thankful for people like you who take care of their mental health. So thank you so much.
I will add one more thing. The reason we started to do this because my life was saved by emergency responders and the Coast Guard. I died 3 times on that one down at Keel Island. Coast Guard got me to MUSC, emergency responders revived me, and the hospital staff brought me back. So that was pretty cool. So thank y'all.
Thank you for what you do.
Approval of minutes of previous meetings. A, Planning and Development Committee meeting, March 9th, 2026. B, Parks and Recreation Committee meeting, March 9th, 2026.
I'll make a motion that we approve section A and B together unless there's an amendment to be made.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to approve items A and B. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Mr. Mayor, I have 4 that were sent in for us that I would like to read into record before we go into the folks that are here. First one is from Ivy Deach. Dear Somerville Town Council, first, thank you for your service to our town. Now to the matter at hand. For the owners of 115 South Magnolia to try to bring an extreme downtown mixed-use zoning into an old established historic district and disrupt the peace and quiet of the residents seems like a really ugly thing to do. Somerville does not need for the area south of the railroad track to evolve into the same hodgepodge north of the railroad track. Please consider these homeowners and deny this rezoning request. Second, this is from Seth Deach. Dear Somerville Town Council members, simply put, Somerville is a beautiful town. A lot of people think so. My family moved here 10 years ago. We love the charm of the small town, and we especially love the stately old historic homes with beautiful front yards. If you allow commercial zoning to infiltrate the historic area of South Magnolia and East Richardson, you will change the face of Somerville forever. When other homeowners along those blocks apply for commercial rezoning, which they will have to do to preserve their own property values, it would be those houses when zoned commercial, which would be potentially off market as residences. My guess is they will be attorneys' offices, consulting firms, accounting firms, dentist offices, and other businesses that do not attract tourists. You will be creating a juggernaut to the determinant of the future of Somerville. Tourists like to eat and shop and walk through Somerville's historic neighborhoods and parks. They say that that's why they come here. I respectfully ask you not to improve the zoning request, which certainly seems to be spot zoning that benefits only the owners of 115 South Magnolia. This molehill will become a mountain. Is it worth it? Thank you for your service to the town. Next, this is from Laura Crosby. Dear Council, boat motors are fickle things. Sometimes they start, sometimes they don't. Any boater who fails to start the motor before he launches his boat is crazy. My husband has two ancient boats. He likes to fish. Before he launches our vintage 1997 Chrysler boat, he always checks to make sure the engine will fire up. Occasionally, he has to repair something. In July of 2024, the owner of 115 South Magnolia reported my husband to the Town of Somerville Codes Enforcement, claiming he was operating a boat repair business. He even uploaded a video shot from the upstairs window of his house featuring my husband manually pulling his boat into its parking space in our driveway. The owner emailed the following to my husband and me when submitted his false claim. We have multiple videos showing the loud and alarming noise that is generated when this happens. The noise interferes with our right to enjoyment and our own property, which is also against the law and can be prosecuted if it is not resolved. Clearly, the owner of 115 didn't like the idea of a business operating next to his property, and to protect his interests, filed a false claim and reporting my husband to the town. Now, the same owner who has apparently done a 360 is requesting approval for spot zoning. While he objected to a business next to his house, which didn't exist, he apparently thinks it's fine for all the houses in our neighborhood to have a business within our midst, and in my case, right next door. If this house is rezoned, what happens then? Will the owners of the next house over apply for DMX rezoning? How could they be denied? Will Magnolia Street have to be reduced in width to paint parking lines to accommodate this business? Will there be lights, odors, unruly bar, a garish inflatable tube man, Lady Liberty gyrating out in front, or worse, a boat repair business? The owner states that this is a tremendous financial benefit to the town to rezone the property to DMX. Anything goes. Any kind of business that can operate on Main Street will be permissible. A bar, a restaurant, a tattoo parlor, an auto repair garage, halfway house, a smoke, a vape shop, a funeral home, and even the existing inn that hosts thousands of stays per year. Fine. But what about the neighbors' right of enjoyment of peace and tranquility and the quality of life? I'm talking about neighbors who have exercised their rights in protesting spot zoning. They care about the existing and charming character that attracts so many tourists to our town. They have faithfully attended every meeting, having been through this trial twice. These neighbors purchased and have invested collectively millions of dollars in their historic homes because they felt secure in their living and residential neighborhood. Do you want a business to operate next door to your house? Our neighborhood is a treasure within the historic district. Please don't mess this up. I respectfully beg you not to approve this zoning request. This one is from Wesley Donahue. Dear members of Somerville Town Council, I wanted to write and express my appreciation for the work you do serving the people of Somerville. Public service is not easy. I know the decisions you make often involve competing viewpoints and pressures. I understand that you will soon be voting on the issue involving the Dungan family and their proposed short-term rental establishment in downtown Somerville. I'm hopeful that you will support them. At its core, the job of government is to serve its citizens and do everything reasonably possible to help them succeed. When residents step forward trying to invest in the community, trying to build something, trying to bring new life into the town, government's role should be to help make that possible, not stand in the way. It's not the job of unelected staff to go after citizens or stand in the way. It's their job to serve and to bend over backwards for the citizens. The Dungans are trying to do something positive for downtown Somerville. They're trying to create a place where visitors can stay in the heart of our town. That matters more than people realize. Right now, if someone comes to visit Somerville, there is essentially nowhere for them to stay downtown. The only real option is the Hamilton, and the reputation of that place speaks for itself. Would you stay there? Most visitors instead stay out by Nexon. When that happens, they spend their money out there too, not in our historic district. We want a vibrant downtown. We have to give people a reason to stay here. Anyone who spends time on Short Central during the week can see the reality. Many storefronts are empty. Shops that should be thriving sit quiet. Buildings are falling into despair. That's what happens when there is not enough consistent foot traffic to support small businesses day in and day out. Sometimes we see crowds during festivals or special events, and that's wonderful, but those occasion surges are not enough to sustain a healthy downtown economy. Businesses need regular customers, and visitors staying in town are a big part of the equation. A shiny new stage isn't enough. You don't always have to spend taxpayers' dollars to fix the problem. You can let private investment work. I know there's opposition from some who believe the best way to preserve Somerville's charm is to prevent any change at all. I respect the love the No Caucus has for this town, because I share it. But a strategy of resisting everything does not preserve a town. It slowly empties it out. A downtown without visitor becomes a downtown with shuttered storefronts and neglected buildings. This is the opposite of the charming Somerville that we all want to protect. Supporting responsible investment from families like the Dungans is how we keep this town vibrant while we still are preserving its character. I hope you will do everything you can to support them and help bring more people into the heart of Somerville. Doing so will strengthen our local businesses, preserve our historic district, and keep downtown alive for a long time. Thank you again for your service to our community. And that's it for reading in. On public comment, we have first Yolanda Day.
Can I be heard? Thank you. On February 7th, I went to Knightsville Methodist Church to meet with the pastor there and Mr. Harper. And luckily, I took a letter with me because he was not available. I left the letter in which I requested that he no longer strike the amplified, noisy bells at 6 a.m. every morning. When I heard nothing the following week, I called Mr. Warren and asked for his assistance. When I received no assistance from Mr. Warren, I sent an email to the mayor and the town council members on February 23rd, asking for their assistance. In response, I did receive a suggestion that I go back to the church and ask the pastor to become a good neighbor. So I did. And the pastor told me that they had been ringing the bells for 50 years, which I rather doubt. But he also said that a person from the town administration had visited him and told him he was not breaking any ordinances. And finally, that he had read my letter. So you can see he has no respect for what the administration says and I have no influence as a neighbor who's waking every morning at 6 a.m. I have read the noise ordinance, and it basically gives him carte blanche to do whatever, regardless of how it disturbs his neighbors. I believe the noise ordinances need to be rewritten. I've looked at 3 towns, neither Hanahan nor North Kingstown have a carve out allowing churches to do whatever, whenever. Only Goose Creek is similar to Somerville, and it's actually worse because it allows churches to make noise every 15 minutes rather than every half hour or hour. I respectfully request that you rewrite the noise ordinances and use North Kingstown as your model. It is well written and it does not excuse churches from being good neighbors. Thank you.
Next, I have Shannon Sutton.
Good evening. My name is Shannon Sutton. I live at 404 South Magnolia, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. I've been here before for 401 South Magnolia when it was up for rezoning. The thing that seems familiar about both of these properties is how the regulations were well known by the purchasers of these 2 properties, but once purchased, they wanted to change the rules. To own a business requires taking risk, and I applaud people who start their own businesses and take on that challenge. But sometimes taking a gamble results in a loss. That too is part of business and shouldn't be considered relevant in this situation. Additionally, the owners mentioned the tax funds and visitor revenue that his business generates in town destinations. We as residents in this neighborhood also pay taxes. We pay an extra 2% of taxes to live in the historic district. And our guests and extended family and friends spend money at in-town businesses too. His business thrives exactly because of the residents who continue to keep well-maintained homes, and you want them to continue to maintain their homes, and that we all work and eat and shop and play at these local businesses too. Those visitors stay at his location because of the local character and the uniqueness of the Somerville Historic District. We must not erode that character by changing zoning of residential homes. Please hold to the well thought out zoning plan that is currently in place by voting no to this rezoning request. Thank you for your service and good evening.
Next, I have Thomas Stanford.
Good evening. My name is Tom Stanford, and I live at 404 South Magnolia. Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you for letting me speak to you this evening. I have visited many historic areas, and our town has a particularly vibrant one. It feels alive. It's not a fake or plastic imitation. And it would be a shame to lose that. And for that reason, the historic district was established with great foresight, and there are existing restrictions precisely to prevent losing that feel. Excuse me. All it takes is to waive them once, and they essentially become meaningless. So the issue here is one of a precedent being set, actually 2 precedents, either one of which would ultimately change the nature of the neighborhood, costing us its unique charm. The first precedent would be allowing spot zoning, which is my understanding that excuse me, I lost my spot. That was very bad of me. The first precedent would be allowing spot zoning. It's my understanding that the sought designation DMX is reserved solely for the block faces surrounding Hutchinson Square, which I find to be an odd request. Why not just go for a regular mixed use? But if you allow the spot zoning here, it would be used by anyone not liking the their zoning to change it with no regard to the intended use of that zoning. The second precedent that would be allowing an entity to recoup monetary losses after making substantial changes to an historic building in direct violation of existing codes and regulations. If this rezoning goes through, there is no incentive for future entities to follow those codes and regulations, as they can use this occurrence as a precedent and demand equal treatment. So please consider the long-term implications of your decision today. Should you agree to this rezoning request, the genie is out of the bottle, and our unique historic district will slowly morph into just an overbuilt place. So I urge you to please vote to deny the rezoning request. This will send a strong message that we value our historic district, that the codes and regulations exist for a reason, and that you ignore these codes and regulations at your own peril. Thank you very much for your time.
Next, I have trouble reading your last name, but it's Matt Joltner. Johnson. Okay, there we go. Thank you.
I have a bad signature. I apologize. Good evening, Mayor, the city council. Thank you. Look, I honestly believe one of the greatest assets of our wonderful town is the charm of the historic district. I feel privileged to live in Somerville and own a historic home. And in some respects, I feel my wife and I are caretakers for our community to look after this important asset for our town. Look, preservation is not easy. Most towns over the years have destroyed their historic neighborhoods. Thanks to wise decisions over the years, Somerville is the envy of South Carolina. As we say in our market, the most charming town in the South. And make no mistake, that's why people want to move here and visit our vibrant historic city. So I am here tonight to say I am concerned about changes to zoning within our historic district. They were put here for good reasons, and they've worked. I know decisions made today may not affect anything short term, but we all must think long term. And I know this city council shares my passion to make sure that future generations will benefit from the charm and history of Somerville. So let's all be good stewards and protect our historic district. Thank you so much.
Next, I have Megan Duncan.
I'm Megan Dungan, and we're here tonight to request rezoning for our Magnolia Inn to DMX. Over the years, many of y'all have heard lots about this property. What makes our situation unique is that when we purchased Magnolia, we went to the town and asked what it was required to operate a bed and breakfast. At that time, we were told the owner had to live there and that we could operate up to 5 units under a bed and breakfast permit. Because of that requirement, our innkeeper moved in and became part owner of Magnolia. The ordinance was not specific to ownership percentage, so we were in full compliance. When we first opened, we only had the finances to open up our 3 units, but the town was aware that our long-term plan was to go to our 5, which was under our permit. Before we had the opportunity to open the additional 2 units, concerns from the neighbors led the town to revise the UDO and add the requirement that the owner had to be 50% ownership. That one change meant that we could never add our 2 units and that one innkeeper had to live there indefinitely or we couldn't operate. By requesting DMX zoning, we are simply asking for a path to continue operating the way we have, also while meeting the town's current rules. Our block already has several different zoning types, so when you hear people talk about spot zoning, that is just simply not true. Somerville is known for its hospitality. The downtown has become vibrant, a destination for restaurants, shops, concerts, and festivals. If we want those businesses and events to keep thriving, we have to have places for our visitors to stay. You may hear concerns tonight from those who oppose us. Unfortunately, some of their statements in the past have not always reflected the full context. For example, last time we were here, it was stated that we were delinquent on our taxes. In reality, we had simply chosen not to pay the early payment discount, which the town allows. When presented without context, it sounds like we just don't pay our bills. Despite disagreements, we have worked hard to be good partners in the community. We collaborate with other bed and breakfasts in town. We participate in the porch stroll, the Christmas walk to bring visitors to this town. Tonight, I'm simply asking for the opportunity to continue operating and serving Somerville and the visitors who come and enjoy everything our town has to offer. So thank you.
Next, I have Christina Smith. Sign.
If I may. Mayor, Councilman. My name is Christina Sineth, and I run a business at 112 West Doty. I am here to speak favorably to requests for the zoning change for 115 South Magnolia from GR2 to DMX. I have also had the privilege of being the exclusive realtor for these owners for nearly 4 years now. And when the time came to bring the property to market, we did so thoughtfully. We chose our pricing with care, looking to the sale of 710 South Main as a guide, and we honored what the market had already shown us. This property is unique, and since listing it in November, it has had a lot of interest. However, none of the interest has been from single family or even multi-generational users. They have been for the bed and breakfast, and all of them have hesitated over the current zoning. I understand the concern about edges and buffers, I truly do. But this property is not sitting in the stillness of a quiet residential neighborhood. It already lives at the edge of downtown life. The traffic tells that story plainly. The stop sign at West Richardson and Magnolia carries thousands of cars a day. That is not the rhythm of a sleepy side street. That is a place already connected to the energy and life of downtown. On the same block, properties are and can be marketed as mixed use with business flexibility, and across the street from the property, all of the lots are being used in some sort of commercial way. The market started speaking to this change even years ago. This property as a single family opportunity alone has struggled to find its place. It was on the market for over 2 years, sitting vacant until the current owners bought it in 2017 and started loving it and giving it a new life because they too love Somerville and wanted others to enjoy it. This is a sign that if we want to preserve places like this, we must allow them to live in ways that are sustainable, as we do not preserve history by admiring it from a distance while denying it the ability to survive. The town has already embraced thoughtful lodging and reinvestment nearby. Bon Air Park is proof that Somerville understands the value of bringing people close to downtown in a way that supports local businesses and creates connection while still having residential neighborhoods surrounding it. With 10 VRBOs being marketed, it is clear that having people truly experience Somerville is the way to have them fall in love. This property matches the distance to the town as Bon Air does, being 1 block off from the center. It is not a disruption, but a complement. This request is not asking you to abandon the character of Somerville, but to say yes to a future where preservation and progress can walk hand in hand. Please do not let this beautiful home become too special to use and too limited to survive. Let it continue to tell the story of Somerville. I respectfully ask for the approval of the zoning change for 115 South Magnolia. Thank you.
Next, we have Justin Duggan.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for taking the time to discuss this evening. My name is Justin Dungan, along with my wife, Megan. We're here to represent the property at 115 South Magnolia. We feel that we've arrived at a fork in the road for how we approach business and growth in downtown Somerville. One direction is to allow our downtown to decline like so many others have throughout the state and quite frankly, across the country, and to continue to push visitors coming to downtown into surrounding communities such as Nexton, Charleston, and others. The direction that we're advocating is to support our local businesses, especially those like ours that serves the visitors who are coming to experience the very thing that we all love about Somerville. Our inn has welcomed thousands of guests. We've received thousands of positive reviews during that time that reflects the level of care, the level of service that we provide our guests. We love doing what we're doing. Those guests spend an estimated $500,000 every single year in the neighboring businesses that are walkable from our home. This is approaching nearly probably $5 million or so since we opened. 500,000 a year. The opposition has stated that those coming to visit downtown Somerville should stay at the Hamilton or quote, those hotels down by the interstate. I know that I do not have to state to you how wrong that position is. We feel that these changes represent common sense and a proactive approach to supporting our downtown growth and success. We feel that the approval of these changes signals support for our local businesses downtown, and it says that we matter just as much as the big businesses down by the interstate. In closing, I'd like to remind us all that Somerville was founded in a spirit of hospitality. Somerville was built on the backs of inns just like ours. And we feel that the future success of Somerville is going to be driven by the success of businesses just like ours. And ultimately tonight, we're here asking to just be allowed to be a part of that future. Thank you for your time.
Next, I have Frank Tomczyk.
Evening, Council. The issue tonight is not whether 115 Magnolia is popular, profitable, or has 5-star reviews, as the applicant told the Planning Commission. The issue is whether the property in a historic residential district should be rezoned to downtown mixed use to accommodate an operation that has exceeded the limits of the current zoning ordinance since 2018. To address the applicant's statement to the Planning Commission, first, spending over $1 million on the property does not create a legal right to operate outside the zoning regulations. Zoning rights come from the written ordinance and approved permits, not verbal statements, not personal assurances or bank statements. Every property owner in this town is responsible to confirm that the zoning code allows what the zoning code allows before investing. Second, while the economic benefit and visitor traffic can be positive, South Carolina courts are clear. Economic consideration alone do not justify rezoning. That is spot zoning, given different zoning for the benefit of that property, not because of a legitimate planning reason. The Supreme Court of South Carolina has already ruled on spot zoning. Decisions must align with the town's comprehensive plan and serve the long-term public interest. Popularity and revenue do not replace legal standards or planning principles. Third, zoning exists so that rules are applied equally to everyone. Change the rules after the fact rewards non-compliance and penalizes property owners who do follow the law. This principle protects not only the historic district, but the credibility of the town's entire zoning framework. And finally, there's another important point which the applicant didn't mention at the Planning Commission. The property has a for sale sign on it. Is this request to enhance the resale value? Rezoning property that is currently for sale effectively grants a commercial entitlement for a future buyer, which the town council cannot evaluate today. Town council, the core question is simple. Should zoning rules be rewritten for a single property to accommodate an operation that has self-created hardship, or the integrity of the historic residential district and the consistency of the town planning process prevail? I know this can has been kicked down the road for a couple of years now, and I know it's not everybody's fault here, but you have an opportunity to stop the can from being kicked down the road. I would like you to keep our neighborhood an extraordinary place to put down roots. Please deny the application. Thank you very much.
Next, I have Diane Frankenberger.
Good evening, you all. I'm here to speak on the matter of this property. And I really don't know where to begin. I like to come down on the side of grace and not law. I've listened to a lot of legal jargon up here, which anyway, I am not for spot zoning, make no mistake. The town has worked really hard to get their zoning in place. And instead, I would ask for a variance, which is about grace and not law. I lived in this neighborhood back in the 1960s, and what was there, sometimes to know where you are today, it's real important to know where you were. The town was quite a bit different then. There were boarding houses. The houses were divided up during World War II so that people would have a place to stay. Several of the homes were condemned. And I love my neighborhood. And I would live there in a minute. But zoning is very important, and the neighborhood has come quite a ways from what it used to be. Bed and breakfasts, I think, are very important. I think hospitality, it was mentioned, that's what the town was founded on. I've heard remarks about the downtown is not doing so well. I'd like to refute that. The downtown is alive and doing very, very well. And a lot of people want to live downtown in the historic district, and it's very important to preserve that. But I think the Duncan property, the Sanders used to live there when I first moved there. And that property in all those years, this is the best it's ever looked. If a variance were allowed, a bed and breakfast could continue, which is and used to be in the character of the neighborhood. And I think that's really all I've got to say. I understand all sides of this, but to throw that wide open for downtown mixed use, I know sometimes when I lived in that neighborhood, people tried to do that. And you don't ever get a standing ovation for that. People didn't speak to me for a while, but after a while they did. And so I would ask for a variance. I would ask for a way to make this work for everyone. But when you have mixed use, I just spoke to Miss Jessie about what that actually means. And to throw that wide open, it's real important. There are transition blocks, and then there is the block, and it's the historic district, and that's that. But it could have a variance, hopefully, for a bed and breakfast. And there are all sides to this argument, and I don't think it makes one person evil and another good. I think everybody can be good and say that they're doing the best they can. I'm just going to say amen. Okay.
Next, I have Debbie Tomczyk.
Hi, Town Council. I'm an invested neighbor of 115 South Magnolia, and the decision before you tonight is whether changing the zoning of this historic property from residential to downtown mixed use is appropriate for the long-term planning and the integrity of the town. The applicant's primary argument is that he was told in 2017 they could operate 5 suites or more. Even if that erroneous conversation occurred, zoning rights are determined by written ordinance and approved permits, not informal statements, so a verbal assurance cannot override the zoning code adopted by town council. The applicant also argues that he's invested over $1 million in the property. Well, that is significant. The investment alone does not justify rezoning. Otherwise, any property owner could exceed the zoning limits and then request a rezoning afterward based on the amount they've spent. To accommodate the financial expectations of one single property owner raises a legal concern of spot zoning. For spot zoning case law, I remind you that the 1963 state Supreme Court decision, Bob Jones University Incorporated versus City of Glenville invalidated spot zoning, which they defined as giving a small land parcel a classification entirely unlike the zoning for surrounding areas in a way that benefits the owners of the property and harms other property owners. I feel if you can answer these 5 questions, you will have your vote. 1, how does this rezoning align with the comprehensive plan? 2, what changed to justify changing the zoning now? 3, how does this project protect the surrounding property owners? 4, is this about land use planning or enhancing the marketability of a single project? 5, how is this not spot zoning? For every property owner who follows your ordinances and to preserve Somerville's historic residential neighborhood, to avoid possible litigation, and to serve the broader public interest, I respectfully ask the council to deny this rezoning request. Thank you.
Next, I have Peter Gorman.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Our historic district is under commercial attack. This is but the latest example where our neighbors have had to come to town hall to protect their homes for those who seek to exploit our charming and peaceful neighborhoods. They purchase our homes and then ask you to rezone them so that they can convert them into commercial enterprises. We have spent the last 9 years appearing before the BAR, the Planning Commission, the Board of Zoning Appeals to express our concerns over 115 South Magnolia, 201 Central Avenue, 410 Central, 401 South Magnolia, and North Main and 5th Street, and their commercial conversion plans. We are frustrated that we have to take so much time away from our families and work to appear before these commissions and this council. In this latest case, the applicants are asking you to rezone their historic property at 115 South Magnolia from residential to commercial. After years of ignoring our ordinances that limit the number of short-term units and require living on the property, our code enforcement and municipal courts have caught up with the owners. They cannot live in the B&B because they live and operate another historic B&B nearby. If rezoned to commercial zoning, DMX, they would be able to operate with a surrogate caretaker and extra short-term rentals as they have been doing for the last 9 years. The entire block is now zoned GR2 Historic District. The planning director recommends denial, and the planning commission vote was unanimous to deny rezoning. By approving this request, you would be rewarding the owners for their illegal behavior and profits from their 3 of their 6 units. You would also be spot zoning, that is illegal under 1963 state case on point here. You would be expanding the traffic, noise, and litter complaints that are already on record while eliminating any future compliance remedy under commercial zoning ordinances. In sum, you would be doing serious damage to our historic district neighbors who bought and invested in their homes with the expectation for the peaceful quality of life that our neighborhood now offers. The owners have told you how much revenue their operation raised for the town. The town should not benefit from revenue generated by these 3 illegal units. There's no shortage of places to stay in downtown. There are at least 3 other B&Bs nearby and as many as 25 short-term rentals in the near downtown. Neighbors here on the east side of the historic district are united in opposition and have signed 40 of them have signed petitions submitted during the Planning Commission hearing. It is now part of the record. Please, no amendments, no delays, no further studies here. It is certainly illegal spot zoning. I hope you can support us in our efforts to protect the historic district.
Thank you, Mr.
And deny
Gorman.
this request. Thank you.
Next, I have Bertie Crosby.
Thank you for your opportunity to speak. I appreciate it. In case some of you are not aware, 115 South Magnolia is for sale and has been on the market for several months. I don't know why it's languished there, but my guess is that it's because it's been converted into 4 apartments instead of being laid out as one's primary residence. Another reason may be that being zoned GR2 negates the opportunity for an absentee owner, a local investor, or perhaps the current owners from operating as an inn or some other commercial venture. It could become any type of business that one finds along Main Street. And it's evident that this expansion of opportunities is why this rezoning quest from residential to commercial is before you. The original conditional use permit for the property allowed for 3 bed and breakfast rental units. 2 were in the house. From a previous presentation by the owners before the Planning Commission, we learned that the 3 units were not sufficient to cover expenses, so additional units were added. However, no permits were requested or approved. They have stated that they thought they could have 5 units on the property. Until recently, they were renting 6 short-term units, which brought about the citations from codes enforcement. So how much money does 115 South Magnolia generate for the town operating 6 units? Is it the huge amount Mr. Dungan claims? I doubt it. But from my conversations with renters, some may eat at local restaurants and take a walk downtown. Most tell me that they're here to visit Charleston, the beaches, family, or to attend some special event like a wedding or graduation. Some actually stay in the rental unit for almost the whole visit. And do their own cooking and spend a little money in town. Regardless of what is generated, the 3 illegal units there took rentals away from my legal units downtown. Granting this rezoning to make those illegal units legal will do the same thing. 115 South Magnolia shares property lines with 5 other properties on our block. How long will it be if this is approved before some or all of us ask for the same zoning change? I certainly will. How could you deny any of us who make the request if 115 South Magnolia is approved? And what would that do to the historic gateway to Main Street? How long before the owners of the NMX properties on the west side of South Magnolia asked to be rezoned, since it would no longer be a buffer between the DMX and the historic district? With this as a precedent, how long before there are spot zoning requests in other neighborhoods? There was a reason why the South Carolina Supreme Court found this practice invalid back in 1963. While this is the first time this request has come before you, it's the second time it has come before our Planning Commission. Both times, those conscientious, hardworking volunteers listened carefully to the citizen comments, seriously considered the matter, and voted unanimously to deny the request. I ask you to do the same. Thank you for your time. Good luck to all of you.
Next, I have Zach Pace.
How's everybody tonight? I'm here for 507 East 5th North Street. I'm trying to annex into the town of Somerville from Dorchester County. My goal here is to operate my HVAC business out of the property. And doing that through Dorchester County, they said they recommended us to annex the town of Somerville. So, and hopefully getting a zoning general business, which everything around that property is also, I think it's apartment complexes and churches and stuff. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Next, I have Jim Healy.
Good evening. I'm Jim Healy from 210 East Richardson Avenue. We, the neighbors who live in the historic district, come to you again to request you deny the petition to change the zoning of 115 South Magnolia to downtown mixed use from its current GR2, which all the houses on that block are. As we have said before, our historic district should not be for sale to LLCs wanting to profit from short-term rentals in our neighborhood. This zoning change is no more than a spot rezoning in our neighborhood that neither needs it nor wants it. And I believe many on council would agree. This is a neighborhood of families. We do not need an influx of short-term rentals or businesses that'll change the very character of the historic district, the very thing that Somerville is known for today. Many of our neighboring towns, cities are also dealing with the same pressure of this influx of short-term rentals, some too late, and now want to maintain their residential neighborhoods and are drawing the line. We need to take a stand to maintain what we have. Our historic district is not the place for a boarding house, which is what 115 South Magnolia was until they were caught and fined for overbuilding their short-term rental units in GR2. Let's celebrate our historic district, its homes and families, not eroded with short-term rentals. I think we would all agree that the recent tour of homes in the historic district was a success and something Somerville should be proud of. Thank you for your time and your service.
Next, I have Karen Healy.
I'm Karen Healy, related to Jim Healy. We both live at 210 East Richardson Avenue. So I'm here to ask that the rezoning request for 115 South Magnolia be denied to stop the commercial creep into our residential neighborhood, which now has 2 LLC-owned properties on the street, and both have asked for rezoning request. The precedent has been set as a reminder that the other LLC at, I think it was 410, was rejected by this group. I've been working on a project which has included some research, and I'm going in a different direction than everybody else, but getting to the same endpoint. I've been researching Kitty Smith Spring, Saul Alexander, and Mrs. W.A. McIntosh, who was with the Somerville Preservation Society, who in 1976, 50 years ago, same as the church bells perhaps, they submitted an application with the U.S. Department of the Interior to create our historic district 50 years ago. Here's the application. Fascinating read, the care and the reverence they have for our town and the listing property by property. It's just really nice to see. And I bring these people up because they all shared a desire to look ahead for the betterment of our community. I think Mr. Johnson referenced future generations. And I think that's really important and something we need to remember as we're hearing a lot of information and disinformation. So I would say, I hope you read the transcript of the Planning Commission meeting and looked, well, within that transcript is the wonderful report that the Planning Department put together. Clearly, there's a map. The entire block is GR2 residential. There is no mixed use on the block. Across the street is neighborhood mixed use. And I think it's really important to also look at the real estate listing of this property. And if you look at the pictures, you'll know why no residential person can buy the property. There is no kitchen. It's just a bunch of separate units. There's an apartment upstairs that has a kitchen. So they're in a bind. They really need this rezoning to be able to sell the property. It's a problem. Look at the listing. It makes it really clear why this is so important. And you can see how they've been operating over capacity for years. They did their own self-rezoning and have been cruising along. That needs to stop. Please remember where we've come from as we move forward and make these decisions. Kitty Smith, Saul Alexander, Mrs. W.A. McIntosh. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, that's all I have for first public comment.
Thank you, sir.
And petitions, A, petition by Paces Comfort Cooling LLC to annex TMS number 138000031 located at 507 East 5th North Street and totaling approximately 1 acre. Currently zoned TRM Transitional Residential District in Dorchester County and requested to be zoned GB General Business following annexation into the town of Somerville's municipal limits, Council District 2. Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation to approve the annexation and zoning at its meeting on February 23rd, 2026. Planning and Development Committee voted to move the item to full council with recommendation for approval at its meeting on March 9th, 2026.
Mr. Mayor, I move for first reading and approval of the petition.
Second. All right, motion and seconds for approval of first reading. All those, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Introductions and of bills and resolutions. A first reading of ordinance to rezone TMS 13707160009 located at 115 South Magnolia Street, totaling approximately 0.67 acres and owned by Magnolia Bed and Breakfast LLC from GR2 General Residential 2 units an acre to DMX Downtown Mixed Use Council District 2. Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation to deny the zoning at their meeting on February 23rd, 2026. Planning and Development Committee voted to move the item to full council with no recommendation at its meeting on March 9th, 2026.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve first reading.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to say this has been an ongoing subject since I've been on council, and I've heard from a lot of people. I also live in an area right on the edge of the historic district. I sit on the corner of West Richardson, South Pine. There's commercial all around me. In fact, law offices are going down the road. I wish they were bed and breakfast. I'd much rather have a bed and breakfast around me than the law offices. So I worry about that myself for my own property. I want to make sure that my house never goes to commercial. And those are things that I've thought about. I've built a revenue stream in my business based on historic preservation. So I understand what all of you are saying. I think this is a different situation. This is not like a normal zoning. These individuals have agreed to deed restrictions that follow every owner through and through, that it would stay a bed and breakfast. It's the perfect location for a bed and breakfast. You've got right there at Magnolia and West Richardson is their bed and breakfast. 3 houses down is the Pink Dolphin bed and breakfast. Beside that is the 3-story children's center. That's the reality. Just like I have to see the reality of where my house sits. Do I want the rest of Magnolia going commercial or neighborhood mixed use or downtown mixed use? No, I don't. I would vote it down if it came here. If the property next door said they wanted that, I would vote it down because that's not protecting the historic district. But this is sitting at the corner of a busy 4-way stop sign. They want to protect it as much as the next person. They want to make sure that it stays a bed and breakfast, and they have agreed to a deed restriction. So I think this is also another reason why I hope the residents in this community will get more involved with our preservation society. We need a more active preservation society. We need them doing things like historic facade easements like you do in Charleston. We need them handling things just like to make sure that our downtown is preserved as it continues to grow. So that's all I have to say on the matter.
Mr. Mayor, I don't intend to vote in favor of first reading tonight, and it doesn't have anything to do with whether it's a bed and breakfast or anything of that nature, or what's happened in the past or what 2 neighbors got into it about. I wish I could just repeat what Ms. Diane said up here a little while ago. I think she said it beautifully. I just don't think that that's an area that we need to start rezoning. We have a line on our zoning map. Unfortunately, this is on the other side of that line. And I think if we start moving that line, then we wind up with a problem down the line, so to speak. If we were having an issue, I said this Monday night, if we were having an issue in this area with houses that were falling in disrepair or needing some kind of support, extra support to revitalize this neighborhood, I would maybe gives us a second look, and maybe we need to kind of change over this area, similar to what has happened across on the northeast side of Somerville with those areas over there converting to more of a commercial sense. And in that, I look at the area of South Magnolia, and it's a pretty strong neighborhood, as evidenced here tonight. They have a very, very good tight knit community, and I feel like their neighborhood is thriving. So I don't see the need to throw a kink in a machine that's working right now. I think we have our zoning map. We're in the process of going through redoing our zoning map right now for the town of Somerville. But as of right now, this is where our line is drawn on our map. So that's why I'm going to be voting against tonight.
Mayor?
Yes,
I
sir.
agree with Richard, and I'm not looking at the unit at all. To vote against this, if we vote for it, how do we vote against the neighbor doing the same thing and the neighbor doing the same thing and being so contradictory? So I just have to vote against this type open business. It's expanding throughout that neighborhood. And for me, ethically, I wouldn't have a way to stop it. If I vote for it now, I'd have to vote for it in the future.
Then then essentially we spot zoned then the Pink Dolphin and the Dorchester Children's Center, because those are just 3 houses down. So, but
Council, Mr. Mayor, let me just say, I like the idea of a bed and breakfast there. I'm not interested in solving any one individual's issues, but rather I want us to carefully craft a long-term policy for our town going forward. I believe that the downtown mixed use is too aggressive for that zoning. Downtown mixed use would allow a 24-room inn, it would allow a liquor store, a bar, outdoor entertainment, which I don't think anybody wants in that neighborhood, and event venues. If this petition passes first reading, I would propose that we find a way to rezone it neighborhood mixed use and remove the owner occupancy requirement. Some of the uses that are allowed in neighborhood mixed use already are banks, clinics, professional services, restaurants, and daycares. Certainly none of those businesses have an owner occupation requirement. I can't imagine why a bed and breakfast or short-term rental in a business district would also have to have a owner occupation requirement. The neighborhood mixed use is consistent with the businesses directly across the street, and certainly the ones further down on Richardson, like Children in Crisis and the Pink Dolphin. So again, if this passes first reading, I want us to find a way to actually rezone it neighborhood mixed use.
I think that'd be a great idea.
Okay, any other comments, discussion?
Mr. Mayor, if I can ask, is there a possibility for something like this to get a variance or
Ms. Schuler, would you like to come up and speak to the requirements of a variance? What has to be met? I know there's some specific.
The bed and breakfast or short-term rentals is a conditional use, which is not applicable to a variance. The use is only allowed if you meet the conditions of that use.
Jesse, what? I'm sorry. While you're up here, the bed and breakfast ownership requirement states that it's a 50-50 owner, or what is the percentage ownership of a?
It allows a 50% LLC
50%?
ownership.
Okay. And it's still 5 units is all you're allowed, and so on and so forth. So
5 unit
five rooms
for a bed and breakfast.
for bed and breakfast. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Five
Okay.
rooms.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I've gone back and forth listening to both sides, and I really feel for the neighbors that live there, and something that evidently came into their neighborhood that was not exactly legal at the time. And I'm not saying that it was the town's fault or the owner's fault. I think information. It sounds like it was misconstrued. I don't know exactly what happened. But I hate to vote for something that if the owners went deliberately against our rules, and started the bed and breakfast. But then on the other side, I love bed and breakfasts. I actually feel that that particular location on that corner is a great site. I like the idea of having the deed restriction that they have been willing to sign to keep this a bed and breakfast in the future. I really like your idea of changing the zoning completely. With those things being said, I'm going to go ahead and vote for the first reading tonight to see how we can change it somewhat for second reading, that it would be a win-win situation for everyone.
All right, any other discussion? I'll just say before we call for the vote that I appreciate the way the community has come together and been very respectful of each other in these discussions. Thank you for that. You know, Somerville is rooted in hospitality, and I do like what you are doing from a bed and breakfast standpoint, giving an opportunity for folks to come in from out of town and invest and support our small businesses. And I think that location is extremely good for something of use such as that. I understand the concern of the community members as well for a zoning designation of DMX that could be extraordinarily harmful to the future character of the neighborhood. With all of that being said, and I've heard the discussion from our council members, I would be in support of first reading with the idea of a different zoning designation and have the opportunity to continue this discussion. With that, I'll go ahead and call for the question. The motion was to approve the first reading of the rezoning request. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, the ayes have it.
Item B, first reading of an ordinance conveying by quitclaim deed a portion of TMS number 13010000066 containing 0.04 acres, 1,762 square feet to Dorchester County for the sum of $12,335. This conveyance is necessary for the widening of Highway 78. Request from the legal department.
I'll make a motion. We approve that.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, how is the dollar figure determined?
Mr. Slatton?
I'm going to defer to the town attorney. How GW had the $12,335 price come to be?
MAI appraisal, and it's on the corner of Maple and 78. It's where that transmission shop or whatever it is used to be. We condemned that parcel in its entirety. We've got a little small strip left, and I think at the end of the strip, that's what Dorchester County needs for their road widening project.
Is consideration always required in a quitclaim deed?
I'm surprised that they did that. I mean, that's the problem. We would have given it to them for free. But that's what they did. So it's up to council whether they want to take the money or not.
Well, if they're offering, we'll take it, but it seems to me we're taking taxpayer dollars and giving it to another entity that collects taxpayer dollars.
Yeah.
Any other discussion items, council members? All right, motion to approve in second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
All right, on to miscellaneous. Item A, send planning commission amendment to the UDO to clarify that election signs can be displayed 30 days prior to the first day of early voting for an election or primary until 7 days following the election or primary date. The Planning and Development Committee voted to move the item to full council with a recommendation to send to the Planning Committee.
I move for approval, Mr. Mayor.
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second to approve. Any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to ask, what is it currently and why are we doing this?
It's, right now, it's just kind of vague, the ordinance is, as far as when you could put a sign up. Then when it was written, it wasn't written with a in-person absentee voting process in place. So this just kind of clarifies the language to basically bring it into verbiage, into written law, the way we're operating now.
If I may, it clarifies that the election that is referred to in the current UDO, this amendment will refer to the 2-week election period prior to the election.
That's what I was gonna say. I thought it was 2 weeks. So now this will be signs can go out 30 days before the two
Correct.
weeks.
Correct.
So essentially then signs will be out 45 days or so.
The staff has been interpreting the current ordinance to allow placement before the 2-week voting period starts, but this would clarify that that is in fact the case.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say, even before we had the early voting, this was an argument and a problem every single election.
Yeah. 30 days seems like a long time to have a bunch of political signs all over the town, plus 2 weeks additional, but I guess.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Item B, authorization for town administrator to enter into a license agreement with Carwin for Carwin's paid use of 10 to 15 parking spaces on the top floor of the town parking garage with special exceptions to dates of use. Request from administration/legal departments.
Can we have a explanation of what exactly this is?
Go ahead, Mr. Slatton.
Yes, sir. This company Carwin is a group that helps house movers pack up homes and move out. They have seasonal employees, and one of the things that they like to try and do is transport all of their employees on a job to the job at the same time. And they reached out to us to see if we had some availability for them to have up to 15 parking spaces in an effort to try and help them to the extent that we could and make a little bit of revenue. And knowing that the top floor of the parking garage is often empty, we made this offer to them. There are, as you'll see in the license agreement, there are a number of blackout dates that they are not allowed to park and use the garage in that way. They're mostly around the farmers market and the various festivals that we have from that May to September period. The agreement would only go from the beginning of May to the end of September. That's when their season runs, if you will.
And how much are they paying us for those 10?
They're going to pay us $25 a space per month, which if you park all day in a paid parking garage, $25 in most municipal garages is around that $25.
$25 per space.
Per day or per month,
So
Well, it's per-
$25 for the whole month, not per
Yes, I
day.
apologize. Yeah, not per day. Yeah, per month.
Well, I certainly feel like that real estate is probably worth a little more than that.
Well, considering that we don't have paid parking in our garage at all,
That's very true.
$25 for that use is at least a nominal amount. And then they would also name us as an additional insured through their liability policy.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to approve. This is almost like helping out with mass transit, less cars on the road. So I appreciate the reduction in traffic. And then when these folks get done after a day's work, maybe they'll stop by one of our shops and restaurants and do something. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
I do have one question.
Yes, sir.
We have experienced some vandalism at the top floor of that garage from time to time. If one of these cars gets damaged, is it their insurance or our insurance?
Their insurance, they are waiving any sort of liability on our part.
Thank you.
Yep.
And you said the special events, oh, that's gonna include all of the festivals and such, but farmer's market, like Saturdays?
Correct. But they would only be, they're only going to be, as I understand it, using it Monday through Friday. They're not using it on the weekends necessarily.
All right, hearing no other comments, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Item C, authorization to grant a 30-foot ingress and egress and utility easement over town property TMS number 13011000026 at the end of Hampton Street for the benefit of the property owner of TMS number 13011000036. Request from property owner.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Hearing
would
none.
I would assume that the person benefiting from the easement will pay for all the legal and surveying fees.
Yes.
Okay.
Good comment. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Mr. Mayor, I have no one signed up for our second public comment. Mr. Mayor.
Come on up, Ms. Healy.
Observation, and you just mentioned getting cars off the road, so it's a perfect segue. The parking lot that recently had the zoning change on 6 by Berlin G. Meyer, the Link van used to park there. And I don't know if the sale has gone through, but as someone who walks around and experiences, since I live on East Richardson, there are a lot of cars going back and forth. And in my ponderings, I thought, wouldn't it be great if people who came to town paid to park there and a shuttle would run through downtown over the railroad tracks to those restaurants that have 0 parking and sort of connect us that way. That's my thought. That's it.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Please don't second that. We have one more item.
I'm trying to get ahead of myself.
I move we enter executive session to discuss legal matters, receive legal advice related to a potential claim involving the Gadsden Dam.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to go into executive session to receive legal advice related to a potential claim involving the Gadsden Dam. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are in executive session. Thank you.
I've done that more than once.